Chapter 4. It was our first Sunday dinner since getting home from Seattle. We'd gotten home the previous Sunday, but by the time we'd gotten off the plane and made the 3-hour drive home, dinner had been over. Sunday dinner was a long-standing tradition in my family. If you lived in the area and weren't at work, you were expected to be there. Excuses weren't accepted. Brittany, my only sister living in the area, had 2 small kids, and I knew it was difficult for her to manage the kids and help Mom cook on a regular basis. So I was in the habit of showing up early every week and helping Mom before the rest of the family arrived. This weekend was no different. When Devon and I arrived early like usual, Mom made it obvious had been waiting for us. She swept me into her arms and hugged me tight. Let me see. She insisted as she stepped back and reached for my hand before we started cooking. I proudly showed her the diamond ring that had been on my left hand barely over a week. It was his grandmother's. I couldn't help the grin on my face. Oh, it's beautiful. She went back to the potatoes she'd been cutting. Was it a surprise? I nodded as I went to the sink, slipping the ring off and putting it in the pocket of my jeans. It was. I had no clue what he was planning. I washed my hands. Are you happy? She asked. I knew all she really cared about was that her children were happy. I am. I couldn't stop the grin that spread across my face. We're looking for a house, some place we can move into together. Both our leases are up at the end of next month, and with our enhanced senses, we'd really like to find some place away from so many people. Your dad might know of something, ask him. We chatted as we prepared dinner, talking about other members of the family until we got to the point where we were waiting for things to cook before we could do more. Why don't we go in the other room and spend some time with Dad and Dev? All right. Mom picked up her glass of iced tea and carried it with her. I grabbed mine and followed, slipping my ring back on since we were done with the messy part. In the living room, Dad had turned off whatever game he'd been watching, and he and Devon were talking. Apparently, Devon had already told him that we were looking for a new place because Dad was saying something about a house he knew of for rent. I bent over Dad, where he sat in his recliner, and hugged him. How's my little girl? Dad asked, hugging me back. I'm doing good. I sat beside Devon on the sofa across the small conversation area. While we have the 2 of you together, and before anyone else gets here, we have something we want to tell you. I picked up Devon's hand and wove my fingers into his. We already know you're engaged. Dad gave me a knowing look. Even though it took you a week to come tell us. He gave the ring on my hand a pointed look. I know. I also know Dev asked your permission first, so the guilt trip isn't going to work. I ignored his teasing. That's not what we're going to say, but we're only telling you because we want to keep this a secret for a while. What is it, dear? Mom's brow furrowed with concern. Are you all right? I nodded at Mom as Devon pulled his hand from mine. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders, comforting me with the contact. I looked down at where my hands sat empty on my lap. We found out on Wednesday that I'm pregnant. I just spit it out. Devon's other hand slid across his leg and came to rest on my lower abdomen. He placed a soft kiss on the side of my head before turning back to my parents. It was a surprise and a bit of a shock at first, but after getting used to the idea, I'm thrilled. Devon said. How about you, Nicki? How do you feel about it? Mom wanted to know. It's taken some getting used to, but I'm okay with it. I'm sure that the happiness and excitement will come. I'm just not quite there yet. I'll admit, though, my lack of enthusiasm could be partially due to the nausea. I spend a couple hours every morning trying to keep my stomach from rebelling. Mom gave me a wry smile. I remember those days. I can't say I'm not glad they're gone. So, when's the wedding? Dad wanted to know. Before or after my newest grandchild is born? His tone said he wouldn't be happy if the answer was after. Honestly, Dad, I haven't even thought about it. I've been too sick and stressed to even think about planning a wedding. I sounded tired, even to myself. I'd rather get married before the baby gets here, sir. I'm kind of old-fashioned that way. Devon used the truth to pacify my father. I don't want to step on toes or make you feel like I'm trying to take over, but if you want some help planning everything, dear, I'd be more than happy to help in any way I can. Mom offered. A wave of relief washed over me, and then something occurred to me. You should know that we're not telling everyone about my pregnancy yet. I looked at Mom. Devon's parents don't know yet and won't for a while. But Mom started to protest. I decided not to tell her yet, Mrs. Daniels. Mom's a gossip, and once we tell her, we might as well skywrite it. When you consider how long she's hounded me to settle down and give her another grandchild, hopefully one she'll be able to see often, we can forget any kind of secrecy. The whole town will know. We're not ready for that, not yet. Mom sighed. I guess you know her best. All right, I won't say anything to her about the baby, but it's going to be difficult, especially if I get her to help with putting together the wedding. I'd love any help you're willing to give me with planning the wedding. Probably sooner would be better, though I don't want to rush you. We're not going to be able to keep people from assuming we're getting married because I got pregnant, but at least we know the truth. I'm sure my mother would love to help with wedding planning, Devon put in. She'll try to insist on some huge shindig, but don't feel like you have to do that. He turned to look at me. Don't let her bully you into something you don't want. If you want a big wedding, do it, but if you just want a small gathering, that's fine too. I'll do whatever you want. His gray eyes were soft with emotion as he spoke. I'll happily participate in any kind of wedding you want. It's making you happy that's important to me, not what my mother wants. He squeezed me against him for a moment, before relaxing again. I looked back to my parents. They were looking at each other and smiling, as though pleased with what they saw. Mom and I went back into the kitchen to finish cooking. Once it was just the two of us, she started asking about what I wanted in the way of a wedding. What kind of time frame do you have in mind? She asked. I don't care. I thought for a minute. After Columbus Day, but before Thanksgiving would be best. I made a quick decision. Do you care about colors? Location? How big? Nothing Halloween, it's too cheesy. Small to medium-sized, family, close friends, but nothing huge. As for a location, something intimate. No huge halls, I want a close family atmosphere. I answered Mom's questions from the gut, without thinking about them too much. You're sure you haven't been thinking about this? Mom eyed me a moment when she heard my quick, sure answers. Not really, at least not recently, but ever since Brittany got married, I've had some ideas about how I wanted my wedding. I pulled a large turkey out of the oven. There were so many of us for Sunday dinner that we either had to fix several chickens or a turkey if we were going to have poultry. We did both with regularity, alternating with other main dishes. Are you sure you don't mind my help? Not at all. You know, planning things like this really isn't my thing. If it's left up to me, we'll probably go see a judge and get it over with, but I know how badly that would upset a lot of people. I slid the rolls into the oven and stood, setting the timer before turning to look at Mom. It's not that I don't want to do it or that I mind having a wedding, I'm just not big on planning parties. My idea of a party is to tell people when and where to show up and to bring something with them. Somehow, I think you and Devon's mom would have a fit if I had a potluck wedding. My serious look let her know I was only partly teasing. She continued to question me, and I gave her what answers I could, until Brittany and her family arrived. After my sister came in with her family, things were busy and discussion about wedding planning stopped as we concentrated on getting the meal on the table. By the time we sat down to eat, both of my brothers had arrived as well. With everyone seated around the large table, we started passing dishes back and forth, letting everyone but the children help themselves. I took a large bowl of mashed sweet potatoes from Brittany, who was sitting to my left. She waited until I had served myself and passed the bowl to Devon before she grabbed my hand and took a good look at the ring on my finger. "What's this?" She still held my hand. "And why haven't I heard about it?" My face heated and I knew I was blushing. "It's an engagement ring," I admitted. Devon asked while we were in Seattle. "Congratulations." She gave me a hug. "When's the big day?" "We haven't set a date yet, but soon." "Actually, Britt," Mom spoke up using her nickname, "I need your help planning the wedding." I was glad Mom enlisted Brittany's help. It meant there would be less I'd have to do. "I'll call Devon's mother, Amber, tomorrow and we'll get started on some plans," Mom continued. Brittany nodded. "She probably already has a huge wedding all planned," Devon warned them. "I had to tell her why in order to get her to send me the ring in Seattle, but don't let her run things. Mom had her wedding and she got to do it again when Amy got married." I got the feeling Devon expected problems from his mom. Cameron and Rain both looked at me. "Engaged?" Cameron asked. "Congrats, you two," Rain put in. "How did I miss that?" Cam wanted to know. "You're too busy with work and Janelle," I said. "Speaking of which, where is she?" I knew they were rarely apart when one or the other wasn't at work. I thought she had the weekend off. "Something came up with her folks. She had to go to Tucson yesterday to see them. She should be home later tonight," Cameron explained. "Are they all right?" Mom looked concerned. I knew it wasn't just for Janelle, but her parents as well. He nodded, waiting until he swallowed his mouthful to answer. "Yeah, it was some business thing. I'm not sure what exactly, but they're fine." He turned back to Devon and me. "You two are moving awfully fast, aren't you?" I rolled my eyes. Not everyone takes years to make a decision. Sometimes you just know, and when you know, what's the point of putting it off? I knew questions like this would come, and since we couldn't tell most people about mating, I opted for a different approach. Devon put his hand on my leg under the table and squeezed gently, letting me know he was there and he agreed with me. If we were sure, why were we putting it off? In that moment, I knew it was time for Devon and I to seal our mating. Neither of us had been looking for a relationship, much less a permanent one, but it seemed silly to keep making excuses when we both knew we were ready.